So many moms feel stuck and isolated, like they've got to keep it all together and can't say how hard it really is. On Let's Get Real, we talk about the real stuff, motherhood, mental health, and everything in between, so you don't feel like you have to carry it alone anymore. Because in order to heal, we have to get real. If you're feeling overwhelmed, grab the Overwhelmed Mom's Guide. It's totally free and made to help you feel like yourself again. The link is in the show notes. Let's jump in. What happens when boys grow up being told to hide their feelings? Too often, they become men who struggle to connect with their wives, kids, and themselves. Today, Dr. Gloria Vanderhorst joins us to talk about how this happens, why it matters, and what we can do to raise sons who grow up emotionally healthy instead of emotionally shut down. Dr. Gloria Vanderhorst is an author and psychologist with nearly 50 years of experience working with children, teens, adults, and families. She's trained in emotion-focused therapy and internal family systems. Gloria is passionate about helping people understand how early experiences shape their emotional lives and how healing those patterns can transform families for generations. Gloria, thank you so much for being here today. I am really excited to get to have this conversation, especially as it pertains to raising boys and helping them learn how to express their emotions in healthy ways and the cost of what happens when we don't do that. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. This is such an important topic, and it's like unknown. People don't realize how important it is to pay attention to the emotions of our boys.
Exactly. That's what I'm hoping to get to rewrite the narrative around and just find some practical ways that we can, as parents, teach them and facilitate this to happen and for their own personal growth. So I'm really excited. So I know that you've seen firsthand how culture shapes the ways that boys are taught to handle their emotions. Can you share what first really opened your eyes to this and why you believe it matters so much to families today?
The thing that started this off for me was a 3-year-old boy. As a psychologist, I practiced working with children, and I had a friend who ran a preschool. And preschools are run by women by and large, and they're staffed by women by and large. And so the little boy who's out of his seat or running around or, just making a lot of noise and motion gets attention. And so teachers would refer that child to be evaluated to see if that little boy had attention deficit or any kind of emotional distress. So this 3-year-old came into my office and was just as bold as he could be. All right. And so his parents were divorced and he moved back and forth between 2 households, and that's stressful. All right. That's hard for any child, but to do that as a preschooler is really hard. And he was difficult in both households. All right. So I kind of asked him, what's going on? Right? Your parents are unhappy. You seem to be unhappy. And he said, well, I never cry. I don't like moving back and forth, but I never cry. My tears go into my mouth. I swallow them. They go into my belly. They turn into rocks. And then they come right back out. And I just throw them all around the room.
Whoa.
Right?
What a visual.
Marvelous illustration, right? Of frustration, difficulty in expression, and anger and irritation. And so that little guy 50 years ago got me really interested and really curious about the emotional state of boys in our culture. So I did a lot of work with preschool boys and elementary school boys. And as I did that work, their fathers put appointment time on my calendar.
Oh, wow. Right? Just for themselves.
Just for themselves, all right? Incredibly powerful to really talk about their own histories, the difficulty that they had in sharing emotion, identifying emotion, even coming to grips with the social expectation that I'm supposed to be strong, I'm supposed to be brave, but when I go home, all right, I'm supposed to be tender, I'm supposed to be understanding. The expectation is too weird. Right? It's too broad. It's
An
too
extremes.
unusual. It's extreme, right? And honestly, historically, we have consistently needed to use men for survival. The caveman, right, could not be tender and gentle. He had to be brave. He had to be courageous. He had to take his spear, go out and kill something for mother and baby to eat. The same thing is true century after century. We send men into war. They have to be courageous. They can't have that kind of soft, tender part of them if we're going to send them out on the battlefield. But the piece that we know for sure from research is that infant boys come into the world with a broader range of emotional expression than infant girls.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
It's a shocker. It is a shocker. All right. They can get more intense in terms of the upper end of the scale, happy, silly, ridiculous, right? They can get more sad, depressed, irritable on the lower end of the scale. And by and large, boys are raised by mothers. You have a boy, you've told me. All right. By and large, boys in the infant early stages are interacting with women. Women are not comfortable with that higher range, and they're not comfortable with the lower range. All right. And so mother, without knowing it, is training this infant to cut those ranges off.
I could see that.
Yeah. And infants are brilliant, right? The only survival mechanism they have is reading the emotion in the room. So mother doesn't have to do anything extreme, all right? If the boy's getting ridiculous and silly as an infant, all mother has to do is to glance away, withdraw a little bit. All she has to do is to send a subtle message of, wow, I didn't get that. I can't relate to that. And the infant, in his brilliance, takes that seriously because this is survival for him. This is not play. This is survival for him, all right? So he takes that seriously and he cuts that range down. Same thing is true in the other direction, all right? He's looking to engage mother, to be attended to. That's critical for survival. So I'm going to do what pleases her. So the boy as an infant ends up narrowing the range that he's born with. And then when they start to walk, pay attention to what we do, right? If boys are fussing or crying, we don't like it. I tell people, go to the mall, go to a playground, watch toddler boys and girls. A little girl will get hurt or offended. She'll start crying. She'll head to mom or dad. She gets picked up and she gets asked what happened. And she could give her explanation. A little boy runs up to mom and dad and they go, what happened? All right. They don't pick it up. He has to give his explanation first. If he gives a good enough explanation, he will be comforted or validated. Rarely will he be picked up, all right, unless he's just kind of completely falling apart or bleeding.
Yeah.
We'll pick him up if he's bleeding, all right, but not if he's feeling. So we train our boys very, very early to completely narrow the range of emotional expression, particularly those that are on the negative end of the continuum, right? Where you're sad or worried or anxious. We don't want to experience that from boys. And then, all right, we decide to marry them, right?
Yeah.
And we want them to be tender and open and capable of sharing their deeper feelings. Now, come on, we just made it impossible for that to happen. Yeah, they've been trained to cut that out. And so you cannot expect them in adulthood to magically bring that back to life. It takes work to bring that back to life. And I know that because I have benefited from working with men and helping them to bring that back to life. It takes work. It does not come easily. It's a real struggle to turn that back on.
I could definitely see that. And what's standing out to me of what you're saying with the infancy is the subtlety. And this is where I think as moms raising boys, we can think, well, I'm not verbally saying this, right. But it's not about that. It's the subconscious nonverbal. It's the body language. It's the facial expressions. And we do know what's going on inside if we pay attention. So it's like the subtleties that are felt, and it's not necessarily the words, because I have felt so overwhelmed by big emotions, and my son, he totally has the ranges, right? And I've heard several people say, like, so much of parenting, it's about emotionally regulating yourself. Right. So I'm curious, what does it look like as a mom or as parents to try and help our sons in being able to express their emotions in healthy ways, like before they grow up to be these men who are trying to figure it out themselves?
Well, the awareness that you've just mentioned is really critical, right? That first of all, you have this knowledge that you do unintentionally narrow the emotional information that the infant will express, right? You do control that. So just that knowledge is really important. And then you have to really make a conscious decision that when this boy escalates, right, to getting either really silly, boys can get really silly and stupid. Right?
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
Wild, because they do have that wider range. And so you educate yourself, right, to be present with that and to enjoy it for some period of time, right? I want to let him go wild and run around the house and throw things? No, I don't want to do that. But do I want him to be able to be big and bold and kind of wild with his expression without running around the house and throwing things? Yes, I do. I want to be able to validate that, right? That you have really big feelings. And, when you're silly, it's kind of fun to see those, right? I wouldn't do any of that. But it's kind of fun to see you do that. But, if you're going to do it for 10, 20 minutes, it's a little much, right? Could we kind of shave it down so that, it doesn't fill the entire house for a long period of time? I want to interact with that boy. I want to validate. You get big feelings. Those can be fun. Right. And they can be very expressive. You get big feelings on the other end too. If a friend disappoints you or makes fun of you or teases you, you get bigger feelings than your sister does. And it's okay. Right? I want to validate those big feelings too. That really hurt, right? When your friend wouldn't give you back your favorite toy and you went to pieces, that's legitimate. That's your favorite toy. It's okay to go to pieces, all right? But now let's take a breath, all right? Let's go talk to your friend. Let's see if we can't negotiate, the two of you, maybe sharing it at first until it returns to you. And of course, your friend is going to leave sometime today, so eventually you'll get your toy back. But I want to validate the extremes of
Yeah.
silliness or intensity of hurt, irritation, or anger. And if we do that for our boys, all right, then we're preparing them to be good partners, male or female partners. We're preparing them to be good partners and to be good fathers. Our children express all kinds of emotion. I want them to be good fathers, to be able to sit with the emotion of a child and validate it, be comfortable with it, have a sense of competence that I can interact with this. It's not too much for me. It's not going to be overwhelming. I'm not going to go talk to your mother, right?
Yes.
I want to be the guy that interacts with my child.
Right. Because it's giving them the permission to feel what they feel on those either extremes. And it sounds like in guiding our kids and helping facilitate this, what they need is the validation on either side. So it's like, it's okay. I love your silly side and I want to see more of that. And here's the parameters. This is kind of how we can channel this. And then on the other end, instead of shutting them down, because that is so often what we can do when we're uncomfortable, we're like, this is huge. It's very overwhelming. I want to shut it down because I don't know what to do with it and I'm uncomfortable. And so instead, it sounds like the validation on that end. Hey, it sounds like that really hurt you. And I'm so sorry that you got hurt by your friend. That's what they really need. And so I'm curious, if we don't do that and we shut them down, what typically happens? Like, does it turn into the anger and frustration like you talked about with that little boy that you met with?
Yeah, think of it. It turns into, first of all, it's a restriction, right? So think about making a physical restriction for anyone. So I have restricted you, which means I've bound you in some way, right? So I've wrapped something around you so that you can't move in the same way that you naturally move without that wrap. So I've done the same thing emotionally, right? I put a boundary around the emotions that are acceptable in this household, and that is going to cause things to get buried. Emotions that are buried don't stay buried. We tend to find places to express them. And if you look at the male population, right, we express them in sports, we express them in fights with each other, right? We express them in breaking into stores and stealing things. I mean, we have all kinds of ways that we can express, I'm unhappy, I'm angry, I'm disappointed, right? I don't like the way I'm being treated. And the truth is, I don't know why. That's the other very difficult part, all right? We limit emotional expression for boys and men, and they don't know why. They have this sense of, I just want to push somebody.
Yes.
Or I want to take something away from my friend, or I want to go steal something. Honestly, our jails are full of men because they don't know how to express their emotional needs.
Wow. Yeah.
So they get into trouble. They get angry and they get into trouble.
Yes. That is making a lot of sense and clicking in many different ways, because I could see how, because they're not given the permission to feel, and like you said, it will come out. It will. So whether it's healthy or unhealthy, and then to not have the space to get curious and to explore and ask, like, where is this coming from? And there's nobody. So it's like, inevitably it's going to get out. They will lash out. It will come out, which I think is really important to highlight, because it's going to, like, we can't just shove it down and pretend like it's never going to, like, it will stay there, because it won't. And yeah. So it's just like even more emphasis on why this is so important to teach this to our kids, but I would assume and think like we have to learn how to do this for ourselves first.
Right. Yes, we have to increase awareness for parents so that they modify the way that they interact with their boys and are much more accepting of emotional expression of any kind from a boy. Now, I'll tell you a little real story, right? My daughter's 3. We're visiting friends who have a 3-year-old boy. She takes his favorite toy, will not give it back, right? And so he tries, he fails, he naturally turns towards his parents and starts crying as he's walking across the room. He needs help. She just took his favorite toy, won't give it back. He's walking across the room. His father takes the back of his hand and whacks him in the chest, puts him on his butt, and says, "Stop crying." Now, that's because we trained that father not to express emotion on the negative end of the continuum.
Yeah.
Tears were completely unacceptable, yet they were normal, natural, healthy for a 3-year-old who's just had his favorite toy taken away.
That's such a good example. And what I noticed in this story that you're sharing is the connection between the feelings, like this little boy feeling so sad that his toy was taken away, and what right, feelings and needs. So what he needed was help. And as a child, he's helpless. So he turned to his parents for help, because it's like these emotions are indicators to something greater. They're telling us something.
Right.
Yeah.
These should not be scary, right? So just afraid of that feeling state. It should not be scary. It should be met with interest and curiosity, right? What's happening? How can I help?
Yes.
Comfort. Talk to my daughter to give the toy back. Right?
Yeah.
Do something productive and helpful for your child.
Exactly. And getting to see the role that we have to play in helping our child.
Right.
Working through this and navigating what they experienced.
Because recovering those feelings, right?
Yeah.
You're an adult male, and recovering those feelings is really hard work, right? You've been trained to be a particular way now for decades.
Yes, exactly.
Not to cry, not to express your feelings, not to have longings or needs unless it is to rise up in the corporation or make more money. You can have those longings.
They're safe.
And needs.
Yeah.
Right? But you can't have a longing for comfort or tenderness or compassion or understanding. And it's so unfair, and it's so wrong that we continue this. And it is critical, I think, in this stage of our culture where artificial intelligence is actually going to give us more interpersonal time, more opportunities for interactions, right? Because the robot's doing my dishes. I'm not doing my dishes. Right? So who am I going to interact with? I'm going to interact with my husband.
Right.
So I'm going to have more time for interpersonal and social and emotional connection. I need to know how to do it, and I need to know how to receive it from him. And he needs to know how to express it and how to find it in his history and give himself permission to share more on an emotional level.
Thanks for listening to part 1 of Let's Get Real. If you've been feeling stretched thin, stuck in survival mode, or like you've lost yourself in motherhood, I made something just for you. It's called the Overwhelmed Mom's Guide, and it's totally free. Inside, I walk you through simple steps to help you reconnect with who you are, find a bit more breathing room in your day, and start to feel like you again. You can grab it now. Just click the link in the show notes. You don't have to keep doing this alone. Let's take the next step together.